And with more on the legal ramifications of the charges against the former president, we are joined by Jamil Jaffer, founder and executive director of the National Security Institute, as well as NewsNation national security analyst Tracy Walder. Welcome, both of you. And Tracy, we'll start with you. Just last hour, we had on former Illinois governor and convicted felon Rod Blagojevich. He is calling this a political attack against the former president. Let's take a quick listen together.
I think, like a lot of Americans, I'm shocked that they would do something like this to a president of the United States. It's unprecedented. No president ever has been charged criminally with documents, because that's what this is. And I heard the Attorney General say what he said, but the fact is that President Biden himself has admitted that he had documents, classified documents, as a vice president. They didn't charge him, nor should they. Why are they charging President Trump? It's so blatantly political. This is a poisonous political hit by a weaponized prosecutor who is engaged in political interference during an election year.
Okay, so of course, Trump is the reason that Blagojevich served 8 out of his 14 years. There is a relationship there. But Tracy, what can be done by the DOJ to shift that narrative that it is political in nature?
Well, thank you for having me, Natasha. It's great to see you. I think there's a couple issues with this. I am not certain that they are going to be able to shift that narrative, really, because the FBI and the DOJ, that has been weaponized in a sense, really on both sides. And I think it's probably going to be problematic to shift it away from that. One of the things that I do want to make a correction about is that the difference here is that he knowingly and willingly he's being accused of knowingly and willingly holding on to those documents. And that is the issue. And that's what separates this, because Vice President Pence also came under fire for having classified documents and was subsequently cleared by the DOJ. And so I think coming out and really parsing out that narrative may be helpful in terms of turning the tides of this being politicized.
Okay. Jamil, Blagojevich also asserting that there's nothing threatening to national security within the indictment. So, Jamil, any question in your mind that there was a threat to national security here?
Yeah, I think there's no question, Natasha, the kind of documents that President Trump is accused of having held on to and withheld, as Tracy correctly points out, when the FBI came asking for it, when the National Archives came asking for it, are significant. 10 of those 102 documents, 31 charged in the indictment. 10 of them were sensitive compartmented information. 8 related to special access programs, so sensitive that even the trigraphs, the descriptors of what those compartments were redacted from the indictment. So we're talking about some of the most sensitive intelligence the government has. We don't know the details of what was in there, but we know the methods by which they were obtained and or the information themselves was so sensitive that the actual compartments themselves have been redacted from the indictment.
Tracy, we also spoke last hour with legal analyst Misty Maris about the indictment, and she said that there was one thing in particular that stood out that could hurt Trump's case. Let's listen to that quickly.
The thing about this particular indictment that's unique from anything else is that there was an order that the attorneys for Donald Trump testify, and much of the testimony of his attorneys is set forth in the indictment. And therefore, when you're speaking to your attorneys, you're the most candid. That's the place where everything is laid out on the table. So to that extent, we really have a vision into the intent.
So what do you make of that, Tracy? In your experience gathering evidence, how common is it for lawyers to be such an important part of an indictment against their actual clients?
Look, that's actually rather uncommon, right? Typically, when we look at something like that, we are looking at other evidence. But the issue that we have here is we have phone calls, we have evidence, and we have witnesses that have come forward and basically said that he has shown them this classified compartmented information, as Jamil pointed out. And I think that is why this is being used here. And I think it's being correctly used because it really does point to that intent and the willingly holding on to this information. And I think that's ultimately what really forced them to come down with an indictment.
Very last question, Jamil, because we're almost out of time. We were speaking with Mick Mulvaney, as you know, last night. He said if he had a piece of advice for his former boss, it would be to shut up. That is the quote from him. Do you agree? Should he be advised to tone down what he says at this point?
Yeah, look, I think every attorney would recommend to their client to not be talking to the media at this point, but I think that's impossible with a client like Donald Trump. He takes his own advice. And frankly, he's gaining a lot of political points with this indictment. He's gaining a lot of political points amongst his base. They see this, as Tracy points out, as the Justice Department being weaponized against him. Whether that's right or wrong is not the point. He's succeeding. So while I think the right legal advice is telling your client to shut up, in Donald Trump's case, it's not likely to succeed. And politically, it's probably advisable for him to keep talking.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.